Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Back home from vacation, coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, holding it down for us while I was away for a bit. Obviously managed to stay along here with you guys. We have a Tuesday night slate. I am told jet lag is still creeping in, but it's a little 5-gamer here on Tuesday night in the NBA. We've got a couple game videos up for you and our player props, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday of this regular season. Also head to thelines.com. Nate and company have their great written content on there, player props, game lines, and the like all season long for you guys, and our great odds finder tool on there where you can go ahead and make sure that you're shopping those lines and player props across U.S. sportsbooks to the best of your ability. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this little 5-game slate and then kick things off with this game video, Knicks and Jazz.
Yeah, the first game, there is a ton of injury news to monitor. Memphis plus 3.5 at the Pels. Desmond Bane doubtful. Jaren Jackson Jr. expected to make his debut. Zion is the game time decision for New Orleans, so can't make any conclusions about that until we figure out what's going on there. Clippers on a back-to-back are plus 7 at Dallas. Dallas struggled on that East Coast road trip. They're coming back home. The Knicks are plus 5 now at the Jazz. It was plus 4 a minute ago, but Fire Tibbs gaining some steam along with that line for Utah at home. The Nets are plus 2 at the Kings. We're going to talk about that game in a separate video. That's fluctuated between 2 and 3. Total is at 226.5. That's been rising. And then the Spurs plus 8.5 at the Blazers. Spurs on a back-to-back after getting waxed in Golden State there. So the Knicks, 145 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder on Sunday. Seems like a last straw kind of moment. I mean, that comes after getting trucked by Brooklyn, scoring just 85 points against the team that opened the season as the worst defense in the league, and allowing the Celtics to hit a franchise record 27 threes and basically clown all over you with every single player to check in, hit a three. Apparently 20 of OKC's 31 attempts were tracked as wide open on Sunday. They scored 145 points. This is a team that came in 29th in three-point percentage. Like, nobody is really a sniper on that team. And then they shot 54% against the Knicks. It's a Tom Thibodeau team. If you're not playing defense, I don't know how they're going to pull out wins here. Their offense is improved. That's mostly due to just Jalen Brunson being a stabilizing force. But Tibbs is going to have a short leash for any guys that mess up on defense. We saw RJ Barrett benched on Sunday. It's just like, who knows what could happen here in Utah if they get off to a rough start. And Utah is just like, as we know, the most surprising team in the NBA, especially at home. They're 5-0. They're 4-1 against the spread. They are both third in offensive and defensive efficiency at home. That's some straight up Suns shit. And they're back home now after 6 of their last 7 were on the road. These home wins aren't cupcakes either, right? The back-to-back over Memphis, like getting that team twice in a row and opening with a blowout over Denver. You look at 5th in points and assists, 4th in three-pointers, which is something, again, we have to come back to here because the Knicks are really struggling to guard the three-point line right now. And the Jazz do have snipers. They have big men who are snipers as well, which is a real problem when you get Julius Randle and company in rotation out there. Mitch Robinson is a game-time decision with that knee. I don't think he's a good matchup defensively for this Jazz team with Olynyk and Markkanen out there. And then the Jazz, they shut down the three-point line. They're allowing the fewest threes per game. Knicks are not particularly adept at that end of the floor. They're awful offensively on the road, 29th in offensive efficiency. And they've been going over pretty consistently at home here, including that massive combined total. Yeah, I mean, they're dead last in fourth quarter scoring, 29th in offensive efficiency on the road. Jazz are shutting that down. So I actually lean under here. In general, I think the Knicks, if they are playing for Tibbs' job or if they do care, will come out with a bit of a renewed effort on the defensive end. I don't really see them winning this game, though. Utah is a very tough place to play. Knicks have lost 7 of their last 8 in Utah, which, for what it's worth, it's a completely different team at this point, but it's still a tough, loud arena. And So I think if you want to tease the Jazz back down to -1, it could even grow more in terms of the Jazz favor here. And then you take under 234. I don't hate that.
It's 234. I mean, that's 230 feels kind of crazy right now. I'm not going to really touch the total. I would definitely lean under. It's not really where I'm starting in this game, just because of the fact that the Knicks have been so bad on the road, man. I mean, there is something to the fact that they've been so much worse on offense on the road, and I think that's probably a pretty big part of all of this. But their defense isn't exactly like better, right? Like it's a little bit better in certain areas, but it's really the same that it was last year. And that offense, like, I don't know, is it really better with Jalen? I think what we were all hoping for when we got Jalen, and by we I mean the proverbial Knicks fan, was a point guard, and we thought that at the very beginning of the season, that maybe that was the case. And I told you right after they were 3-1, and they had just beaten Charlotte, Orlando, and Detroit, and you know I told you, like, let's be easy. They're coming into this game against the Bucks, and they were something like 8.5, 7.5 point dogs, and we were like, well, look, they're 3-1, and look at how much better they are with Jalen. And it was like, this is all a hoax, man. And the next X amount of games just really told us that, because it's a tale of two opponents. Who are the Knicks playing? Are they playing anybody with any kind of playoff hopes and aspirations, or are they playing a team like Charlotte, who's down 3 or 4 of their key guys, or a team like Detroit, who's still just on the rise, a team like Orlando, who's excited to be winning games at home, even if they can't win on the there's nobody there. So when they play the Bucks, when they play, obviously that Grizzlies game at home to start was also somewhat promising, because they hung with them, they put up the points, they took it to overtime, but really it was all just, like I said, it was all just a fluke. It was all a hoax. It's when they're playing teams that are better than 500 or 500 or better, and I'm not even including the Nets in that one, where they got waxed by the Nets there, who are still under 500, and I'm including Philly, who's at 500, and that's the one team that they beat, and they didn't have Embiid or Harden in that game, right? So they haven't played anybody. That's really what it is. They're 1-5. They're losing those games by 9 points a game when they're underdogs, because they're playing a team better than them. 3-4 against the spread, 2-5 straight up, losing those games by an average of almost 8 points a game, failing to cover in those games where they're dogs by almost 4 or almost 5 points a game. So it's not really promising for them right now. I've been on the fire Tibbs bandwagon since before they got Jalen, just because I think he's reached the ceiling with this team, and it's been his calling card and the way that things work. The team sort of, it's not that they even stop listening to him. There's definitely no let's play for Tibbs kind of mantras going on in that Knicks locker room. I don't know what the chemistry situation is. I think it's it's not like it's the same situation as Minnesota, where all of their issues, they were like such a great vibes team last year. And they just lost a bunch of their key players on the wing. They're not the same vibes team anymore. It's not like that with them, but there's no heart to this team. It's not like Jalen Brunson is the leader. RJ Barrett just got benched in a year that he's playing better than he ever has offensively. And everything that they're doing is still just Tibbs ball, man. They can score in the paint. They're getting a lot of rebounds. They're not getting that many second chance points off of those rebounds, which is the one area of this game that you and I were scared to sort of bet on against the Knicks. Is they rebound, and the Jazz, they just don't, and they give up a lot of points in the paint, which is where the Knicks score. The Knicks are, again, in the top 20-ish in terms of their three-pointers that they're shooting, the amount that they're doing it. Last year we saw sort of an influx of that. It's dropped down a little bit this year in how often they're shooting the three, which should only help them against the Jazz, who, like you said, are basically the best 3-point defense in the league. Top 3 in made, three-pointers made, attempted, and percentage from their opponents this year, which is huge. So, that's another reason. They've got all the wing players that the Wolves need and are sorely missing this year on their team, which is why they're playing so well around that wing, defense and offensively. You talk about them sharing the ball. The Knicks, that's my thing, is like Jalen came in, he's a point guard, and they're still in the bottom 10, bottom 8 or so in terms of assists per game, assist percentage, and all that kind of stuff for the Knicks. They're not moving the ball at all. And if you're going to keep them from being able to move the ball, and they have to play that ISO ball, which is where the majority of their points come from, unassisted 2-pointers, unassisted 3-pointers, then you're feeling good about it. And that's going to put a huge ceiling on their ability to score, which 105 points a game on the road versus 121 a game at home right now. It says everything you need to know. The way that they're shooting, the pace that they're playing at, everything is just much faster and better, and at least more efficient at home, even if it's not good, because their defense is still atrocious. So there's not much to like about this team, and I'm not going to feel like there's much to bet on for them until they really don't have Tibbs in the driver's seat anymore, because we know what this team is when he's there, and it's just not better than 500.
Yeah, and if you're counting on Jalen to roast this Jazz team like he did when he was with the Mavericks, I mean, it's a completely different defense at this point, right? He's kind of that pick and roll maven a la Chris Paul who can really expose Rudy Gobert by putting him in those actions. And I don't think he's going to suddenly resurrect the Knicks offense here. I think the discrepancy in 3-point offense is too much, but and also the more I think about it, the better the under kind of looks, just because the Jazz, the Knicks going to get those second chance points. The Jazz struggle to rebound. That's the one thing with those lineups with Markkanen and Olynyk, that they're going to struggle to box out, but the Knicks are not highly efficient on the first or the second chance. And then the Jazz also 25th in free throw attempts. So there's some offensive regression, I think, coming here. And even in those kind of great performances to open at home, the Jazz have gone under in 3 of their 5 home games. The exceptions being that second matchup with Memphis, with Ja, who's just, and Bane, who are just buckets, and then the Lakers, who play at the fastest pace in the league right now and are pretty reliable going over. So I do really like that as a tease here, whether you want it for this game or another one. But I think, if you get the Jazz down -2, -1, whatever it closes at, along with that under, you should feel pretty good.
Well, yeah, I'm going to use your logic, but I'm just going to do it slightly differently. I feel more comfortable about under 230 than I do about 4.5, 5 points. So I might as well just hit a moneyline Jazz under bet there, and probably get a little bit better on my money there, just because I know that it's gone up actually since we were talking about it, in terms of the Jazz were closer to 4 to open. They're at -5. It's still the money line at -205 for them. So you go ahead and parlay that with the under, and you're definitely looking at closer to 1.5 to 1 on your money there in your return. So I'd probably rather go that way, just because when I saw all the stats I saw before I even looked at the total, and I was looking at this game and then I looked at the total, my thought was this is going to be at 225. And he was at 230.5 right when I saw it. So I think that's what I feel. I know I opened this by saying I lean Jazz, but as that spread keeps creeping up, and we just saw, that 280 point total against the Thunder that the Knicks had in regulation. So I think that's that's blowing this out of proportion a little bit. That game was in New York as well, so there was obviously reason to like a few more points when they're playing in New York. So that's all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out the other couple videos we have up for you tonight on this little 5-game slate in the NBA. And until we see you next, happy betting.